now. I've been in the industry to understand what the web development side costs. And for them to say, Raees, we don't want to take your money. We actually want to be part of this and give our time, not for free, but you get what I mean. And actually have a chunk of something that is not liquid, right? There is no exit right now. And be part of making there an exit opportunity. That when that door got accepted, I went into sujood because I knew that this was a tipping point. You know, they talk about a tipping point. That for me was a tipping point because we went from there to say, can I have this, this and this, to asking experts, what do you think? How can we take this to the next level? What have you seen at the corporates that you're working with to give best practices? And for me, I had no clue. So to have smart people in the room, alhamdulillah. And from there, that snowball just kept rolling. Twitter blew up, Instagram blew up, LinkedIn started blowing up. And for me, we were getting really, really good responses from people. And suddenly it became less of a project and more of a business.
Welcome to another podcast of the I Love Monday podcast. Today's episode, we have someone who I call the Muslim Jeff Bezos, the founder of Ummazing, Raees. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I love Mondays.
Tell us about Raees and where he started.
Should I lay down on there and
go for
just
it.
go therapy, full style therapy? Where I started.
If you need it.
Oh, to be fair, I'll get proper value out of this, yeah. Now, where I started, a little bit about me. So, I was born in London, in Westminster, but I grew up in an area called Bushy. Don't know if anyone's ever heard of that. It's a small little village next to Watford. And my family are mixed race. So, my mother is a revert. She's English and Caribbean. And my dad is Indian. Indian from Kenya, but originally from kind of grew up in Uganda, so during the time of Idi Amin, came as a refugee, and of all the places he chose to come in the UK, went to Southall, and then met my mum, and now she's a revert and where we are today. So for me, personally, I grew up in Bushy for most of my life. Going to school, I was typically the only brown person in school, let alone the only Muslim, certainly usually the only practicing one as well. But as well, a little bit on the family side, I'm an identical twin, so if you see me walking around twice, it might not actually be me. And I am the youngest as well by 4 minutes, so I've got an older sister as well. That pretty much wraps up me as a person.
What did you do in college, uni? What was your childhood like?
So in school, I'll be honest, I was probably quite disruptive. In fact, even before school, I was quite disruptive. Kind of a little bit laddish behaviour, very, very immature. But I got to around, I'd say all the way to sixth form. And then I started to take things a little bit more seriously. My brother had left the school that I was going to somewhere else. And I think for me, even the friendship groups I had, they started changing. I think a lot of people talk about you grow out of your friendship, certain friendship groups. And I think it's a very common experience, and that pretty much happened to me. So around sixth form time, I was basically spending my time in the library. And that's when I realised actually the disruption was kind of a waste of time because I actually enjoyed learning. So I did my A-levels, I was quite into economics and that sort of stuff, the business side. I was always that kid at school. You know, you get those ones that were selling the sweets. Those ones. They always say, how did you start your business journey? I was selling sweets. I am that cliche of selling sweets. But for me, I did economics and I went on to university to do economics. It was between that and accounting for me as well. But I'll be honest, if I look back today, I probably would have done something maybe similar to an apprenticeship. But given where I am today and the journey of Ummazing, which I'm sure we'll speak about, Leicester, University of Leicester, is absolutely critical in the journey of where I am today. So I'm glad that I went to university and wrapped up that amount of tuition fees. But I think the company I made at uni, the people I met, changed me to be a better person. Eventually met my wife in Leicester as well, alhamdulillah. And because of that, I've managed to be able to start Ummazing as well.
Why was uni so critical?
I think for a lot of people, you either know you want to go uni or you don't. And some people are kind of in the middle. And for me, I was in the middle because There are some people that choose to be a doctor, a lawyer, dentist, those ones where straight path to their career. But there are others that choose to do something more vague, international relations, business, economics. For me, I felt like I had to go into the finance industry, but it's not what ended up happening. But uni was critical for me because growing up, I didn't really have a community, an ummah. Certainly when I was growing up, it was very much, travel an extra 45 minutes to go to the mosque or even to Jummah. Having to ask everywhere, is that halal? I mean, I know things have changed today. I mean, we're talking like 10, 15 years ago now. But genuinely, everything was the vegetarian option for me. Everything was further because I had to go to miles more to try and get to places in London that would be able to give us what we needed as Muslims. So when I got to Leicester, if you've ever been Leicester, and anyone watching that's ever been Leicester, that's a culture shock. You got people walking around in their jubbas, there are buyers, you've got a mosque dotted everywhere. You've got businesses that are truly run by Muslims and non-Muslims catering for our needs without even asking the question. So for me, this was almost like I'd made some sort of journey to an absolute another country, when really I was an hour and a half down the M1 and I hadn't been exposed to this at all growing up. And the types of people I met, all from different backgrounds, I'm mixed race myself, so meeting people, especially in Leicester, there's a lot of reverts, a lot of different nationalities, and that's one of the beauties of Islam for me. You get so many nationalities, and all you have to do is say salam, and they smile at you and they return it. You might not know that person, but they do. And in Leicester, that's how it is. You'll be walking down the street, you might not know that person, but they're so much nicer. And I appreciate there are areas of London that will probably be the same. I wasn't used to that, and for me, Leicester holds a very, very special place in my heart because I got really good friends and really good company out of it. And for me, company is a massive thing in terms of who you become as a person. If you have bad company around you, it reflects in the actions that you have and the actions that you go on to do. They also ground you if you've got good company. They'll tell you when you're out of line. Trust me, I get enough of that. But also, I met my wife eventually, having gone to Leicester. Not after the 3 years of going to university, it was actually after, but alhamdulillah for that. And the idea for Ummazing came from that, from the community feel of university, of Leicester. For me, I don't think the degree itself was in any way valuable for me. I don't think I have any transferable skills of a particular module, but the experience was something that I don't think I could get anywhere else. I think God does everything for a reason. Allah has His plan. Clearly, way, way better than I could have ever planned, alhamdulillah.
It's interesting because Osama Musa, who's just come on the podcast, has mentioned uni to be really good for networking, but he was thinking of that in hindsight. I've never thought of uni as a networking place, and now you've basically said similar to him. It's perfect for you and what you've done in terms of a sense of community.
Sure.
You're also involved in family business, right?
Yeah, massively.
How did you get into it? Did you have any reservations? I'm always interested in people's experience in family business because I'm from a family-run business as well.
Definitely.
Some people say I would never work with family, so I'm always interested.
Yeah, I mean, I see it a lot. I see a lot of people who are in the family business. I see a lot of people that are outside of the family business that have that sort of sentiment where they say, no, could never be me, could never be me. But for me, how it happened was I didn't even graduate from uni. I did eventually, don't get me wrong, but I'd finished my exams and went straight into work. I just said to my dad, look, I'll help out, I'll do little bits here and there. And at that time, I wasn't actually working directly with my dad because I think we both understood that if I worked with someone else in the company, it might be a better experience, a little bit more arm's length. And my dad would always get me involved in the family businesses in agrochemicals and water treatment, shout out IWS. And back then, as a 21-year-old, something like that, if you could ask me, am I really passionate about agrochemicals, water treatment, I'd never really heard about it really. So I finished my exams, I go to help out for a little bit, but in my head, I'm always thinking, look, I'm going to apply for jobs, I'm going to go to the big four, because I've done an economics degree, I've done decent in my economics degree. I'm going to go do the natural path for someone that's done a finance-based degree. So I applied for PwC, EY, Deloitte, all the big four, those sort of ones, and the general sort of path for that. And I got an interview, and I'll be honest, it was through nepotism. It wasn't necessarily through merit. I managed to get in front of them because someone knew someone. And it was more to find out what the industry was like and what a day in the life of me would be like in that particular business. And he sat me down, and bear in mind, after this, I probably worked at IWS, the family business, for at least 3 months, something like that, 3-4 months, a good solid chunk of time. And he's walking me through like audit. You know, what's it going to be like for audit? What's it going to be like for doing financial accounts? What's it going to be like for you as a cog in the machine? And I'll be honest, it just didn't interest me. It was something where I felt I had so much to give, but I was kind of being restricted. And if I had ideas, like, this is not the place I'd want to be giving it to. So he's talking, he's going through it, and he gets to the point where he said, look, if you want to move forward, we can. And he looks at my face and he said, look, Raees, I don't think this is for you. I think...
Why?
Because he's describing a day in the life of this particular person. But before we'd had that conversation, he'd listened to me speak, he'd heard about the experiences I've had at IWS. You know, I've managed to pitch at the United Nations in Vienna. You know, I've been in the room with people who are far more experienced than me at the same table, maybe through nepotism, but don't get me wrong, the experience I've had to just be able to be at that table, listen and learn at that age of maybe 21, 22 is absolutely invaluable compared to being at maybe the Big Four, where you're a cog in the machine. And I have no disrespect for anyone that's at the Big Four, don't get me wrong. Everyone has their own path. But for me, the way I learn is I have to be in it to actually understand it, right? And if I'm going to go through that route, I don't know if you would get the same Raees that you have today if I took that route. I might be 4 years later. You might be asking me at the age of 29 that I've only just got to this position today. So I had that conversation with him, and he looked at me and said, look, Raees, I don't think you're going to get the same experience that you're getting now. And I think that was quite nice of him, actually, to just give me that level of reality. So I said to him, okay, fine. I agree with him. I'll be honest, I was kind of totally reserved in my head. I was checked out maybe 20 minutes into that. And I said to my dad after I called him, I said, look, I think I need to continue, get my feet under the table a little bit and really figure out what I want to do. And then from there, we got to a point where essentially from being scared to pick up the phones when I first got there, you know, people were coming into the business, leaving the business, I was filling in the gaps. I'll take on that role, I'll take on the next role. You know, it's a family business, it's livelihood, it's not just a wage, you know, it's to make sure that we've got food on the table, to make sure my mum's comfortable. You know, I'll always put 110% in compared to the guy that's just going in for a salary. So the more I got involved, the more I got exposed to better people that I could learn from, the more I thought, actually, this is something I want to be part of. And until I can get to a position where I am totally tapped out on what I can learn, I'm hungry. You know, I really want to learn that. So, you know, I was exposed to people from the city. I was exposed to people from the UN. I was exposed to people from various different industries that I hadn't even heard about. If you asked me today, like, about a really random industry, you know, oil and gas and fracking and all that sort of stuff, I kind of know about it because I've met people from there and I've learned from them. If you asked me that if I was at a Big Four or a totally different route of a career, I wouldn't have a clue. So in some sort of level, I've become more well-traveled or more experienced because I've been thrown into the deep end. Genuinely, I've been thrown into the deep end.
And you're still at IWS now, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think come May, I'll be touching 5 years. 5 years at IWS.
So you started Ummazing while you're full-time at IWS?
100%, yeah. So I had the idea for Ummazing, I'd say the year I graduated, so 2018. Sat on it for a while. I didn't even have a name for it. My brother walked into the room. I have to give him credit for this. He walked into the room and he named it. I was coming up with some crazy names. So,
like what?
Imagine. I don't know. Imagine. I had some really uncreative names, and then he walked in for 5 minutes and he saw me just sat there at the desk and he said, "Raees, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm trying to come up with a name for like a Muslim-centric business." He goes, "Oh, what about Ummazing?" Oh, yeah, that's all right, it's fine. And he walked out the room and went, "Yeah, Ummazing, that'll do. So first thing I did was I went on to GoDaddy, grabbed the domain, alhamdulillah, 99p, it was there. Had to make sure I spelt it right, I bought every single variation of it. And then went on Company's House. So this comes into 2019. I didn't really know about Company's House and all that sort of stuff back then. But again, from that experience at IWS, I was company secretary at certain, at least the duties of, and I was filing the confirmation statement. I was helping filing the audited accounts. So I knew about all of this eventually. So I thought I need to set up a company, at least make it dormant. So I've got the name. So set up the company nearest my birthday in 2019. Then 2020, that's when I started getting really, really serious about doing it. And it was difficult to try and balance full-time job and Ummazing, because I remember there was a point where I'd made a presentation. My dad's quite encouraging. I've always had business ideas. Whether they're good or not is another story, right? But I think this one I was really passionate about because it had something to do with the Ummah and something to do with our community and inshallah the deeds that we have moving forward. And I got to a point where my dad said, look, put together a presentation, pretend it's Dragon's Den, put it on TV and pitch it to us in the living room. And my dad is of that way and my mum is of that way. And my mum was acting like Deborah Meaden with her hand going like that, like I'm out. And I pitched it for probably the most awful pitch if I was to have it recorded. And I pitched it for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And they all said, yeah, this is a goer. So from there, that's when I put the effort in to say, I'm going to make this happen. I don't care that I'm working full time. I'm going to make it happen.
What gave you that idea?
It's a good question. I went through a lot of different ideas, none of them Muslim-centric. And what I kind of got to was I was sitting at the desk and I was genuinely trying to come up with business ideas. I've always wanted to run my own business and make it something quite creative, make it something different that I was passionate about. And that was the thing. Everything I was coming up with, I wasn't passionate about. And one thing that Leicester had left me with was a passion for community. In fact, I was almost like kind of FOMO on Leicester. The fact that, it's all over there. People are going to all these lectures and all these community events. And I got none of that. I could just about find a mosque. And it's kind of like tumbleweed rolling across. So how do I fix that? What can I do straight away? So I wanted originally to create an all-encompassing app for Muslims, prayer times, halal food, services, we're here today, goods, anything, just all in one app. And I wouldn't reinvent the wheel. What I would do is go and find those people that are doing that, create strategic partnerships and make it happen. But the reason I was so passionate about it was because I saw what was possible. When you talk about the Ummah, how many times have we heard it where we say the Ummah should be better? The Ummah needs to give to charity. You need to give to charity for the Ummah who is suffering, right? How often do we hear it positively? And we are in charge of that as Muslims, right? We are in charge of what our sons, our daughters, our children have in future generations. And there have been people that have tried, that have fantastic initiatives. You have them, I'm sure, on this podcast, right? Everyone is doing their own thing to push it forward. But I felt that there was a gap here in terms of bringing Muslim businesses and Muslim-friendly businesses and services together with our own community to really hit the top. I'd lived in that Jewish community where I can tell you straight away, admirably, what they do in terms of keeping that business within their community and staying and increasing the value of their pound and increasing the value of charity that goes out is fantastic. And they do it, and they've done it for God knows how many years. And that's something that I felt was lacking within our community. I saw it in Leicester. Where was it when I was in Watford? Where was it in like the middle of nowhere in Exeter? There are Muslims everywhere. We are the fastest growing community, right? You have got so many across the world. If you were to say that we were actually united in terms of doing business together in other elements, imagine how strong of a team that is. And for me, that was missing. So if I can even make a step in that right direction, I'd like to think that on the last day, without getting too deep, that I at least can say to God, I did something. And everyone else that supported can actually get that sort of reward as well, inshallah.
What's your vision behind it? Is it the same as when you started?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the thing for us is, the mission is genuinely to uplift the Ummah, right? So whilst it looks like a services directory at the moment, what we're saying to you is, look, if you spend your pound with this particular business, he or she will give you fantastic value for money. Their pound, your pound, will make them do better. And if they do better, you do better because you get great value for money. And also, you know that pound's being circulated within our own community. And if that pound means we can spend more on zakat, on sadaqah, brilliant. That's your pound that's going around. So for me, the vision is to have a system where Muslims work together in order to uplift our own community. There are so many of us. It should be the case that we can do that. And maybe it's idealistic. There is a lot of education involved to make this happen. And I know there are some negative stereotypes, assumptions that are kind of within our community about this sort of thing. But I think unless someone does it, someone holds strong to the actual principle, this isn't about making money. That's a byproduct. If it happens to work, then great. This is about genuinely making generational and legacy change within our community so that we can have a better future.
What are some of the negative things you've had?
I've heard this quite often, so I think even before I say it, you might have listeners that are already thinking it, you know, like so-and-so doesn't like doing business with so-and-so, they get jealous, there's a little bit of evil eye out and all the rest of it, right? For me, when we talk about Ummazing is not just the directory, Ummazing is the culture, right? So you alone as a business, let's take High Castle Estates, you alone are amazing with an A, yeah? When you work together with your community, which is what you've been doing over these years, right? You become amazing because you are giving them value for the work that you do, and they're in turn paying you for that value that you give. Now, if we could do that on scale, that's brilliant. Now, we do that in pockets at the moment, right? We might do that in areas where the demographic of Muslims are pretty high. But do we knowingly do that? And often, the stereotypes that come out are a little bit of jealousy if so-and-so is doing better than the other person. That shouldn't be the case, but it is innately within us as humans to sometimes have that emotion. No one should skirt around it, but what we can do about it is follow a platform that we know can support others, that gives us value in return. Whether they do it on purpose because they do it out of the goodness of their heart is one thing, but if you know you get something for it and the byproduct is our ummah is uplifted, for me that's a good thing. But for me, that stereotype is something that has cropped up a lot, and I think a stereotype exists because it happens or it's thought about. Unless someone or we as a community do something to change that stereotype, nothing's going to change because we are the ones that have put that stereotype there. It hasn't been outsiders or non-Muslims saying, oh, you know, the Muslim community don't really like helping each other out. That's not something that they've said. That's something we placed on ourselves, and we have to remove it.
You say that, and it is a stereotype, and there is also a stereotype Muslims don't like working with Muslims because customers ask for too many discounts and they're not being supported. And we've got the other thing about the jealousy and everything. But I think that's about 10%, 15%, maybe 20%. The majority is supportive. So I think also the question is you get people obviously going to say negative things. That might just be them as people. But
100%.
Why don't we focus on the large chunks? The 80% who would be positive, be supportive, and then use that to not just drive you forward. We've got other companies or other Muslim companies like Muslim Amir or like Tanim, who both appeared on this podcast, to push Muslim to Muslim businesses forward and then keep that pound within this community to uplift the community, to uplift the ummah, and then it also pushes everyone forward, and then those who are less fortunate, it pushes them a bit forward as well. Because essentially we're looking after our own.
100%. Look, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. You know, with any community, any idea that you have, you've always got a situation where there is going to be that 10%, that 5%, that 2% that don't agree with what you're saying. Whether it's with any valid basis or whether they're just disagreeing for the fact of disagreeing, right? But my concentration isn't with them. For me, Ummazing is, as we said, a culture, right? You have to qualify to be amazing, right? Not everyone that signs up gets to go on there, right? However, if you don't follow the basic principles of wanting to uplift your ummah or not believing in it, then okay, carry on as you are. I'm sure you're doing great. But if you feel that you could do better by working together later on, we'll welcome you with open arms. That's not something that we're against. And that's why I say it's an educational piece. And I do agree that for 90% of people, we're okay. We'll go in that direction. But I think unless someone creates a mechanism or a platform that actually allows us to easily do that, then it's going to take too long. And for me, we're only here for as long as God allows us to be here, right? We need to work fast on that.
How did you manage your time with Ummazing and your family business, especially at the beginning?
Yeah, that's something I'm still working on. So back in the day, and this was before I was married, so I would start work at IWS, the family business, at about 8:30. We could be going on sites, we could be going up north, it could be 2, 3 hour, 4 hour drives. And we work until late, we're not talking like, I work an hour away from where I live, right? So we're talking we finish at maybe 7, get home at 8 on certain days, sometimes even later. I've done ones where I've gone up to Doncaster and come back at 12, right? Purely because I don't want to stay over there. But the point is, it was hard, but when you have a passion to do something, you find the time. So even if I could get an hour, even just to listen to podcasts and learn about something within the sector, or learn more about the sector when I was coming up with the idea. In the early days, it was very much learning. And I had that hunger. I still do, but now I'm very smart about my time. So if we fast forward to today, I'm newly married. I've got to have time for the missus and for my family, right? That's extremely important. So what that looks like today is I'll wake up earlier. I'll get up at 5, I'll pray Fajr. I'll go to the gym or go for a walk, whatever it looks like, without being a YouTube productivity master here. Then I'll get an hour and a half, 2 hours in, however that mathematically works out, to Ummazing. And then I'll start my work at IWS. And as time has gone on, my family have been very supportive of giving me that bit of flexibility of being able to have calls for Ummazing during the day, because I get my work done. I try to work smart and hard. But if you want something enough, you will find the time. I'm not trying to Molly May this and do 24 hours in a day, but you will find the time. I know I can do it balancing a marriage, balancing a first job, second job, and technically a third. Ummazing for me is that priority. So if I'm passionate about it, I don't want to be the guy that came up with a great idea. I lose sleep over this. Came up with a great idea, slept on it for too long. Someone else more hungry took that idea and deserved it and got it to where it deserved to be, purely because they wanted it more. And that's not me.
I think it's about finding 15-minute pockets. And if, for example, you're designing your logo, shout out to the logo, and you just design one corner in 15 minutes, you come back next day, you've got another corner. Over time, you've got that 1 hour of solid work. And generally, when you work in 15 to 30-minute splits, you're much more focused than if you have a straight 2 hour.
100%. 100%.
But I still find it amazing the way that you've. You see what I did?
We're gonna keep saying this, aren't we?
The way that it's a startup, and it's probably still a startup. The way you've led a community-driven business, along with running a family business, because I put emphasis on the word family. It's not easy, because you're taking your work home. So I have to give props to you for that.
Thank you.
What are some of the challenges you've had in setting up within yourself, not the community side that we've talked about, the negativity, but just within yourself?
For the business, for Ummazing,
for the
right?
business, yeah.
So I think what's actually interesting is the challenges that we've had, even at an established company like the family business, right, are no different to that of a startup. I think you'll appreciate this as well, right? So challenges we've had are time management, managing of people, because we have had, for me, the team that are on because they want to be on. I can't pay them at the moment. They're on for equity. So they're on it because they believe in what they're doing, right? And they believe that there's value in what they're doing. For me, I don't believe a challenge is keeping them motivated. I think they really, really have that hunger, and I'm very lucky every day, alhamdulillah, that foundation of what we do, the principle of uplifting the ummah, is enough for them. Certainly enough for me, but it's enough for them. Because when it's your baby, yeah, you'll have all the energy in the world to do what you're doing, but I'm so glad that they see it as their baby. Some of the challenges, though, that we've come up against is, they're all full-time in what they do, some of them, and them finding the time to really, really commit. Even, like when we did Halal Expo, trying to navigate the people coming to that so that our stall actually looked like there were people there and it didn't look like a one-man band was pretty difficult because everyone's got their own commitments. So communication is key, and trying to get people in even when they've got a spare hour. You know, if it's 8, 9, 10 p.m., I'm very appreciative every day of the team that they give me that hour, and I say thank you to them every day after that call. It might sound like it's just a regular thank you, but that's what's going through my head. They picked that 1 hour that's free for them in their own free time, and they've allowed it to be the case that it's spent on amazing.
How did you feel when you're doing a startup? Your one is digital based, so you've got a whole website to do. You've got a sales pitch where you've got to contact a whole load of businesses. I'm sure there's a whole load of marketing going on. You post on LinkedIn between 8:53 and 9:53 every single day, Monday to Friday. How do you manage to do all of that? Because you have a certain skill set. You don't have the perfect skills in terms of marketing, sales, whatever.
Yeah.
No one does. So how do you manage to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've listened to quite a lot of podcasts, and certainly some of the ones that you've done where you can hear the team or they talk about their team and it just perfectly gels. But for me personally, I'm not great at marketing. I'm certainly not a techie. I have no clue what they're talking about half the time when the tech team are talking. But the one thing I am okay at is trying to get things in layman's terms. So if I know something needs to be done, there is always a way for someone like me to achieve it. So coming back to your question, how do I post on LinkedIn between 8:53 and 9:53, Monday to Friday? You're spot on the timings as well. Scheduling, I come up with my content on Sunday. I bang that out for an hour or whatever it takes. And as I'm getting ideas throughout the week, I just write them down. I don't commit to writing it there and then or anything like that. And that saves me time. But I know it's important because by getting myself out there, I'm on a podcast like this because I get myself out there. Yeah. So for me, one of the important things is unless you do it or you try, you won't know. And I like to fail early, right? That's a big thing for me. Do it, fail early, and go again. So other things like the techie side, and this was a big story actually. When I was first starting Ummazing, I was paying people to do it, and there's only so much money in the bank account of a 21-year-old. And Bank of Mum and Dad, Mum's Deborah Meaden at that point, she said, I'm out. So, I can't ask for everything under the sun, and I don't know what price is right. But the one thing that IWS, or one of the many things that IWS has taught me is always ask where you can. So if you think you can get it lower, ask. Don't be scared to ask. If you don't understand how they're doing something, ask. Even if it seems like an obvious question. If you've got lots of experts in the room and everyone's nodding, just ask. And one of the things for me was, I'm not a technical guy, and I didn't know how to get from A to B. So to take it from a WordPress website, which is basic, to a fully coded solution. I don't know how to do that. If I'd known the people I know today, yes. So I reached out to my uni network and I said, who knows how to do this? Found two people, found one guy, introduced me to the other. That guy ended up being Zam. The second guy ended up being Raees, both my developers and key members of the Ummazing team. But at the beginning, I was paying them because I didn't know them like that. They were just giving me an invoice saying, yeah, we'll help you out, no problem. And especially in the early days, when you're in the thick of it, you don't actually think that your idea is worth value to someone else. You're just building it for yourself. And obviously the community you hope to serve, but you don't think that someone else is going to get involved and say, I want a little bit of that. I'm really, really passionate about what you're doing. So it gets to the point where I paid my last bit of money to them and I have nothing left. And this platform is nowhere near finished. We're about a year away of getting it to where we want to get to. I've asked the Bank of Mum and Dad. I can't bring myself to ask any more. I've got rid of all my savings. At this point, I'm thinking about getting engaged. I've got to be clever about what I'm doing. So I made dua and I said, look, God, give me a way of making this work. And I kid you not, 5 days later, I got a text saying, Raees, I really like what you're doing. I think it would be better if we stopped getting invoiced and we'd like to be part of it. Would you discuss us coming on board for equity and we can do this properly? And I just thought to myself, alhamdulillah, because I didn't even know I could have that conversation. went from one to the next, got Awais on, got Zam on, got people coming to me saying, can I join? I've got this skill set. And then I realized, in answer to your question, I don't need to have every skill set. I just need to know the people that can. And for me, that was a very important thing. I'm only one person, and you know, I'm doing a million other things, but I'm so passionate about what I want to do. So should I slow it down, trying to move the margin on a website that I don't know how to do and make it look pretty before it's even got any sort of utility? No, I should bring smarter people in to do what I can't do and hope that they can do it way better. And alhamdulillah, I'm so lucky that every time they put their hand at something, they've smashed it.
When your dua got accepted, did that give you more conviction that yes, this passion project of yours, it can be so much bigger and better?
Yeah, massively. I mean, there was a point, I mean, back in the day, I was quite active on Twitter, and you know, I was posting about what we were doing. And it wasn't getting that much. I don't think people could understand marketing a product that had never existed before. Certainly, like, you couldn't compare it to anything, and it doesn't exist, and you've got to try and build a following for that. So for me, those times were really difficult because I wasn't getting any like feedback. I was getting feedback of people I knew and people I would meet, and they say, yeah, great idea, you keep doing what you're doing. But when that happened, and I had people that were charging me thousands of pounds for hours and weeks of work, and I know how much this sort of stuff costs now. I've been in the industry to understand what the web development side costs. And for them to say, Raees, we don't want to take your money. We actually want to be part of this and give our time, not for free, but you get what I mean. And actually have a chunk of something that is not liquid, right? There is no exit right now. And be part of making there an exit opportunity. That when that dua got accepted, I went into sujood because I knew that this was a tipping point. You know, they talk about a tipping point. That for me was a tipping point because we went from there to say, can I have this, this and this, to asking experts, what do you think? How can we take this to the next level? What have you seen at the corporates that you're working with to give best practices? And for me, I had no clue. So to have smart people in the room, alhamdulillah. And from there, that snowball just kept rolling. Twitter blew up, Instagram blew up, LinkedIn started blowing up. And for me, we were getting really, really good responses from people. And suddenly it became less of a project and more of a business.
But that's like, we were talking about it off air. Suddenly your confidence grew, and when you sound confident, of when someone says, don't pay that parking ticket.
Sure.
But when you have that confidence, the conviction comes through and the energy hits the other person.
100%.
And that's basically what happened. I'm not sure where we met in your journey, but as soon as I heard about your idea, I was like, this is sick. And I was probably one of them who just said, just keep going. I don't think I offered any other input. But I just said, yeah, just keep going. It's a really good project. But I followed your journey. Recommend probably any Muslim business. I say, contact Raees. Leading on to that, actually, how do you convince businesses to jump on the platform? Have you had any businesses that say, I don't think the platform's right for me?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do we convince them to come on? I mean,
because with me, you told me, do you want to jump on a platform? I said, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, just circling back to what you were saying there, because I think it's important, was you were extremely critical in the journey of building Ummazing. As much as you don't understand it, I'm not saying this because I'm on the podcast, right? This is actually true, right? For any listeners that are wondering whether I'm taking the mick here, genuinely, because you are a business owner. You're my demographic. You're a business owner, a experienced business owner. You've got a couple of years on me, and you're running this fantastic place, and you're exactly the type of person I want to speak to and get that opinion. So when I was building, I was sending you texts like saying, what do you think of this UI or for user interface, and what do you think if I was to take this approach? Would you pay X amount? Do you remember that one? And
I don't actually.
That's it. So that's what I mean. You were the one where I put a Google form out. You were the first person to actually reply saying, yeah, I'd pay this amount, and actually this is something I'm lacking in. I'd like this service. You gave me validation. One person gave me validation. Then it was 10. Then it was 100. Then it was 1,000. But you were the first one. So for me, that's extremely important, because if I didn't have that, I don't know how long it would have taken before I got there. But you gave me the confidence to keep going, even if it was just that one question I asked you. Might seem like nothing, but it was something for me.
I don't actually remember doing that. I just remember I legit remember a Google form you sent. Yeah. It's just come to me, but I don't remember anything else. I remember the website, You asked me how long it takes to sign up,
Yeah.
and all of that. I don't remember much else, surprisingly. But I think this is another reason or for Muslims to support other Muslim businesses, or just in general people to support people's businesses, because we might say I might take 1 minute of my time or 10 minutes of my time and support you, but for you that 10 minutes means everything.
100%.
And for any business owner being a business owner is lonely. You have a team, but we're still constantly with our thoughts. What can we do better? How can we do
100%.
better? Where do I find time to do all of this? I need to upload on Instagram. I need to do a LinkedIn post. I need to do so many other things. Where do I find time?
But on that point, what you've just mentioned there is exactly the demographic. And coming back onto that question I actually just missed there was, do we get pushback and how do people react to selling? But the problem that you've just raised there, time, opportunity cost. How do I I could be making money through e-commerce, but my business is only trading on the floor right now, and I want to take my business to the next level. My 12-year-old daughter can't do that. I've asked her a million times. She won't do it. We are bridging that gap. We're giving you access to not just a community of Muslims, and that's a benefit in itself, but we are experts in what we do, where we can advise, take away that stress, and provide that platform for you to not have that opportunity cost and to not have that stress on you. So for most business owners that are wired your way, that know that they want to take it to the next level, that truly want to be amazing, they get it. They understand it, and our costs are nominal compared to what we can bring in for them. We've had customers where we've taken them in for, let's say, for example, property. I done one LinkedIn post for them and brought them in God knows how many impressions, but I gave them, according to them, 3 million in gross value leads. And of I think the 10 that came in, 3 of them converted, right? In a property setting, that's quite a lot. I didn't understand the value of what we were doing at the time. So the nominal cost that he paid for us, nothing compared to what we brought in for him. There are others that are a little bit tighter on their wallet, and that's absolutely fine, right? They have a situation where they run their business a certain way. They're happy at the rate that they're at. And for me, they don't need to take it to the next level right now. They might want to later. If that's the case, no problem. But for me, where we get to that next stage is the ones that do want to take it to the next level. That's important, and that's our target market.
Who is your ideal business?
It's a good question. So we actually did this exercise to figure out who is the target market for us. So it's a business or a founder or someone who has started their business that's passionate about taking it to the next level. And that's where we use the word Ummazing always, because like we said, you can have a mediocre business, you can have a business that's just doing its thing and you're happy with the fact that it's prodding along and it's doing its thing. But there are certain business owners, I can name drop these ones, where you say like, Chaiwallah, Heavenly Desserts, other big brands that have really taken it to top levels, that they're the types of business owners that have a hunger to go to the next level. We want to meet those SMEs and those sole traders, whoever they may be, those people that are passionate about what they have as a product, as a service, as a business. And they are the types of people that might need help becoming amazing. We don't want the people in the middle that are happy with where they are. That's fine. You carry on doing what you're doing. But the ones that want to add value to a customer, the ones that want to take their business to different demographics, different geographies, different sectors, they're the types of businesses we work with. They're the ones that are truly amazing. The ones that are staying where they are, good on them. That's not the type. I don't want to be convincing someone that doesn't have a need. I want someone that genuinely has a need.
Do you reject businesses that approach you as well?
Yeah, a lot, because what happens is when you're a business or a marketplace or a directory, however you want to phrase it, that says, we are Muslim friendly, that's a lot of responsibility. We've had others in the past that say, halal, when you use that word halal, it's a big responsibility, right? So not everyone that comes on a lot of the time actually goes through. If there's an element in there where it could be considered haram or even questionable, we'll say no until we investigate further. And if it's just genuinely haram, then no, sorry, you can't come on, and here are the reasons why. If it's something that can be improved on, then typically we can help them do that. We can say, look, if you position yourself this way and potentially don't get involved with that or X, then we can have a conversation about getting you on. And we get a lot of those. In fact, a lot of our time is spent on vetting and making sure that the businesses that come on to Ummazing are actually Muslim friendly and are adding value, because it's not just about whether they're halal or haram, it's about whether they're actually good. You know, you have a lot of businesses or service providers where there are negative reviews, and there are sometimes negative reviews for a reason, right? If you truly give everything to the customer and you've got good ratings, you've got really, really good value in what you provide as a service, we want you. If you're doing things half-hearted, your customer service is lacking, your communication is every couple of days when you can feel like it, not for us. Our customers come first. The businesses that serve them, every business that comes onto Ummazing has to have an amazing offer. It's not just like, 10% off if you get this. It's genuinely thinking about what you can give a part of our community. The 10% is good if you've got value. If you're saying 10% off something that's just something done in a way where it's not going to give the customer value, for us, that's not something we want to be involved with. That's not an amazing offer.
What kind of value are you looking for?
We're looking for value where, one, there's a need from the customer. Two, there is a genuine change in the customer's life by offering that service. Now, when we say the amazing offer, it can be the 10% off because the service that you're offering is pretty, valuable, and that's actually very helpful. But it could be something really, really interesting, like, often, free consultancies are something that's quite important, and not everyone gives those free consultancies. Or even, we've had some really good ones when they're working with the community, they impart some of their knowledge. So, for example, yourself, right? Very, very big in the property industry, right? Mashallah. And there might be a situation with High Castle Estates where we say, let's take 30 minutes of every month where you can provide X advice to the customers that are coming on here.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Exactly. Well, there you go. So we just had that conversation, right? And for me, that adds more value to the customers rather than just saying, support Muslim businesses. That's great in and of itself, but the next stage is how can we really give value to customers? And that's why I say 10% when it's done on a half-hearted situation is not brilliant. 10% of a valuable service, that's something that's fantastic. That's something that's amazing.
We can actually do that. We can set something up.
Definitely.
Where maybe once every 2 weeks or something, I can have half an hour, and then we can have customers, and it could be probably your audiences. A lot of them are looking first time, looking 100%. For houses and stuff like that. We can look into 100%. Stuff like that. Have you had businesses who say, okay, look, Ummazing is not for me, and why?
I think in the early days, when we positioned ourselves as a marketplace, a free marketplace, and that was a goods-based marketplace like an Amazon or an Etsy or even a Shopify, we had a few big names turn us down. And really weirdly, the reason was, and it was a real learning curve for me, was because it was free. Because it was free, they didn't want to associate themselves with something that, in their words, less desired brands would be on, right? For us, we did care about the quality of the businesses that were coming on, but they also cared about the businesses that were going to be aligned with them. Now, if we fast forward to today, I can give you an example of how that's actually flipped from us learning about that. So now we do a subscription model. It's free, it's freemium, so you can join for free and you get X benefits. So you can sign up, do your listing within the one location. But if you pay, for example, on our $19.99 package, you can get all locations, all sectors, and you can come up on more searches. Then when you go onto the latter packages, you get featured on the homepage, you get digital marketing services at a discounted rate, get a lot given to you, right? Where that switched was when we got into the legal industry, we had them asking, well, who else is on the platform? So I'd list off the names, and they say, well, you got them. I'd be like, yeah. And they say, well, how much does it cost us to go higher than them? Because if you've got them, we want to be on there as well. So as you can see, that switched from if you've got them, I don't want to be anywhere near you, to if you've got them, I want to pay you more to be on your platform.
I think that's a lot of it is the thinking of the business behind it. Because some see the value in it and say, you know what, they're free, but I want to get that bit higher, fast track tickets,
sure.
I'll pay you £25 a month, £50 a month, whatever it is. Whereas you get another business which will say, you're free, everyone will be on there, I don't want to be on there. And I think the type of businesses you want are the ones who say, you know what, I believe in your products, I'll pay you, and I'll be on top or featured or whatever you provide them. In terms of going forward, what's next for Ummazing? What does the next year look like?
It's a really good question. So we're now focusing on regionally launching our services, right? So we're focusing on Leicester, London, Birmingham and Manchester, some of the bigger cities. Leicester, obviously, because we started there, it's got a bit of a sentimental value. But what it looks like is we're focusing on the wedding industry to begin with, because we know for us that weddings are happening every year. I got married in 2021. You got married in 2021.
The day before.
Literally day before. Very creepy, very strange. But, got mates rates. So what we're looking at is how we can make that process a lot easier, because we are a service provider, bringing all of those people in today. We're talking about your videographer being fantastic at what he does for the I Love Monday podcast, but can we do more? Can we get him into more sectors where we do it talking about weddings? You get the wedding venue, you get the videographer.
He does weddings.
There you are, exactly. Weddings, bar mitzvahs, everything. So you get the wedding venue, you get the photographer, the videographer, you get the caterer, you get the Mehndi artist, the makeup artist. That's a whole nother story, that one. So all in one place, very easy to contact, all in one place again. Instagram feeds are in there, TikTok feeds are in there. There is no reason for you to have to go onto different platforms. You can rely on receiving a message from Ummazing saying your supplier has replied to you, have a look at the message, and save it all in one board, so you can say all of my favorites are here, and you can deal with that transaction as you'd like to. And because they're on Ummazing, they're offering an amazing offer. So you're getting a better value than you would have if you just went to Instagram, where you got no reviews, which on Ummazing you do, from Muslims, and you've got no transparency as to the good and the bad. Instagram is almost like a sort of lawless situation, especially when it comes to certain sectors. With Ummazing, we're regulating that. We're making it much easier for the consumer, and certainly much easier for the business to say, I've got X leads coming in, and they're all on Ummazing. That's brilliant. So moving on into the year, we're going to push on for the wedding sector, and then we're going to push on for the other sectors, because we believe that once we get traction from one side, it should really spiral into something else. We've got some really cool and exciting news for launching Restaurant Directory, where we've done a strategic partnership, inshallah. And inshallah, some really, really cool partnerships with some big names within the matchmaking space. So I'd love to be able to really help in that side as well. So we want to be that central hub where if there's a service, Ummazing has it. And if you want to plan your honeymoon, you can find it on there as well.
Travel planner.
Travel planner, shout out Luqman. So, that's the whole reason you and I went into Amsterdam. So, but on that point, as a consumer, you and I had that problem trying to find an imam, for example, in Leicester, because I'm not from Leicester. I live in just outside of London. Trying to do that was difficult. I found a company eventually, because I'm not really that well in tune with it all, and eventually I figured it out. I've now, with the team, eventually removed that problem for other people, whether it be the imam, whether it be the makeup artist, whether it be the lights, the entertainment, the whatever. It's sorted on Ummazing, and that's just weddings. We can get you on legal, get you on Sharia compliant advice in finance. Trying to find a mortgage that's Sharia compliant, that's quite difficult. I Googled it, trying to find all these suppliers, right? Now it's getting a lot easier, don't get me wrong, but you can find it all on Ummazing. So this is where we want to go. Every single sector, but definitely providing value for the customers.
So are you trying to be like the Muslim business version of Google, or Muslim business version of Amazon, or like a mix, or even Uber if you're doing food, Uber Eats if you're doing food?
I think for us, if I had to compare us to someone to make it easier for the listeners, as boring as it sounds, I'd probably compare us to the likes of probably Google or something like Yelp, where you've got the services.
Directory.
Exactly, directory, right? But we are passionate about uplifting businesses from all. Just because we've started with services doesn't mean we don't want to go back to doing goods like we used to. So, whilst we're talking about planning weddings, there are things to buy there. But what we know is people don't want to do a transaction on a website for such a big decision. That's where we are now. Maybe in 2 years' time, even 18 months' time, we want to be in a situation where we're building on top of the blocks that we built today. So I would say Amazon is a good is a good way of comparing us. It's probably a flattering way of comparing us, but certainly we want to be that name where Muslims think about buying from somewhere. They think, I'll get it on Ummazing.
How many hours a day or a week do you spend on Ummazing?
I think it's easier to do this question mathematically a day. At least 4 or 5, because I do at least 2 in the morning, about an hour in the hour or 2 in the day, and then 2 hours or something in the evening.
And then you spend 8 hours working?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, because you've got this whole plan of amazing food services, you've done like incredibly well so far. I'm just trying to think where your time is coming from. So you're doing like 13-hour days.
Yeah.
I don't know if you sleep much.
No, to be fair, I mean, if you ask my Samsung watch, it'll probably tell me I don't. But the point on this is, I'm at the family business as long as they need me. When Ummazing gains that traffic, inshallah, that it needs to, I will give it my everything. So it doesn't need to be a juggling situation unnecessarily. Family are very, very aware of that. But equally, IWS gets my attention as well. The family business gets my attention as well. So until I'm finished with everything I need to do there, and until Ummazing gives us that traction that we need, we're revenue generating, we're profit generating. At the moment, we're not needing to take investment on because of that. But there will be a situation at a point where we say, if I had the 13 hours to spend on Ummazing and the rest of the team, what could we do to take this to another country? Canada, Australia, America, any of the Western countries that are lacking in this sort of situation. For me, it's something that needs to grow and to be part of the global way in which we buy and sell. So with having big ambitions like that, you can't do that on a part-time basis. I'm very aware of that. So when the time is right, inshallah, we'll make that decision.
Do you have a time frame of, for example, when you're thinking of leaving IWS to concentrate on Ummazing full-time?
I think I have that conversation with the management at IWS and my family as well. So look, I'd like to say that if the traction got to the level that we need it to be at whatever month, I would be able to manage my time accordingly to step back and leave IWS at a place where it's performing better without me. There are people doing better because I'm no longer there, not having to micromanage or anything like that. But in terms of a date, I couldn't tell you, but I'd like to think within the next 12 months there will be a movement towards going full-time on Ummazing.
To be honest, you can always do a staggered movement as well.
I think that's right, yeah.
Part-time at IWS and then do your full handover.
Yeah.
What kind of traction are you looking for? Is it like visitors on the website? Or?
Yeah, so for us, we've had situations where we're getting visitors on the website, a certain amount at the moment, which we're happy with, and we're not finished building. As I discussed with you, the user flow needed improvement, not long ago, right? So I want to be able to launch regionally and get that unique user count up, so that we're able to sell that space, those packages to those businesses very easily, because we've got strategic partnerships with some big names where we can really, really amp up our users. And I'm not allowed to mention them at the moment, but inshallah very soon. So it's nearly there. It's not a matter of I have to wait for it to come. I think it's nearly there. And when it gets to that point, I've got different members of the team that are willing to go full time, as they have already. Some of them already are, before I do. Because personally, I don't believe I'm the most valuable person on the team. I have the vision, don't get me wrong, but the vision doesn't need to be doing things that a developer needs to do or a salesperson needs to do. I think I could come on a little bit later and that traction will kind of marry at the right time.
Every car still needs a driver.
100%. And I'm very good at multitasking. I don't drive with a phone, but I can certainly drive a Tesla and let it go automatic if I can.
As you're a startup, you must have had people who've come to you, or companies who've come to you say, we'll fund you. Have you ever had them conversations?
Yeah, for me, when I started this, I wasn't looking for funding. So when the conversations on LinkedIn started coming through, I said no originally, but I took on the learning side. As I said, I'm hungry to learn things I don't know. So one of the things I don't know are a pitch deck. I don't know how to do a pitch deck. So there's some really good platforms out there that have given us their time. So, the guys at IFG, Ibrahim, he gave us an hour of his time in the early days just to hear us out and learn about what we were doing. And he was very, very kind in saying, look, when you get to that point, when you're looking for raising funds, give me a shout. And I really, really appreciate people like that, right?
He's coming on this podcast soon as well.
Oh, mashallah.
I think
so
it might be next week's episode.
Oh, brilliant, perfect. So, and I'm sure the guys at IFG have absolutely smashed it, and they'll have loads to talk about on that side. So for me, having opportunities like that are fantastic. I mean, you've even got Wahid X. They reached out, and they're a brilliant platform, right? They're new, but they're a brilliant platform because the way their approach is very, very collaborative. They didn't talk down to me to say, look, oh, you don't know what you're doing. We don't want to have a chat with you. It was very much like, we'll be there every step of the way. And for me, as a founder, 25 years old, I don't claim to know everything, right? I don't know what I don't know. And every opportunity I get to learn, I will take it. So if someone says, I'll teach you how to do a pitch deck and I'll walk you through it and I'll give you drafts, 100%, I'm all on that. That's perfect. But you don't get to meet people like that every day. So what's good to know is there are, financial institutions out there like Curate Capital, like Wahid X, and I'm sure some others that I can name off, right, that are out there ready to fund. I've had angel investors come up to us and ask us, but unfortunately for us right now, I say fortunately for us right now, we're in building phase, We're not pre-revenue, but I would class us as pre-revenue. And I think we've got a few more steps to do before I would happily say to an investor, let's take that investment and turn it and triple it and do what we can to give you a legacy investment that is an absolutely life-changing investment for you, and inshallah the reward that you'll get on the last day.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given by speaking to people like Wahid, IFG? I think you spoke to Sufyan Ismail as well.
Yes, yeah, he was the first one actually. He just reminded me. Yeah, Sufyan came on as a. It was totally sort of. I didn't see it coming, honestly. He came on for one reason and totally switched it on me, and it was brilliant. You could see his experience coming through, and I'd never been in a room where that level of knowledge was there. So he was very kind. He said, look, I love what you're doing, but you can tune up on certain bits, which 100% take on board. But I'll give you time with my guy that deals with investments. He'll hear you out and he'll give you some advice. And I think his name was Shoaib. He gave me some great advice. He told me about getting my name out there, speaking to potential investors, just creating a mailing list and getting it out there, even if it's just good news. And alhamdulillah, that worked, because when we launched, I got my brother who works in PR, alhamdulillah, to draft up an email for me and send it to all the relevant people. And that's how Sufyan got involved. And then that's how Business Live did that post about us. And when they did that post, I had some really, really respected people message, say, look, I'd love to take you under our wing, give you some advice, talk to you about this. If you ever need an introduction for investment, let us know. I don't think we're there yet. I think we've got a few more steps to do before, like I say, we can give an investor that level of return. And certainly through the experience that I've had with talking to these people just for advice, I think if I could refine what we're doing just a little bit more, when we are ready, it will be a life-changing investment for any investor that wants to get involved.
Do you think that will be before you go global, like America, or after?
I'm talking the next 6 months, genuinely. Okay. I think if we can hit the goals we have for traction, which I'm confident we can, inshallah, I don't think there is an opportunity out there for Muslims, especially Muslim investors, that give them the choice on both sides to uplift the consumer as a Muslim and the business as a Muslim, and that every transaction and relationship and interaction in between that is going to be facilitated by that particular investor, by uplifting us and allowing us to do what we do. Imagine that on the last day, where you can say that this just isn't a level of investment that you've had. This is Sadaqah Jariyah.
What's one tip that you would give to community-driven organizations like yourselves?
I would say a very good tip for us that's kept us on the right track is remember your mission. Don't let anything else get in the way of your mission, and keep your mission community-based. If that's what you call yourself, a community-based business, project, whatever it is, don't forget the mission, because a lot of people, I fell in this trap, get sidetracked into the bigger sides of VC, startup, using those terms, right, making it sound very fancy. And when they do that, they fall into that trap of forgetting the mission. And for me, that's not something I ever want to fall into that trap again. But certainly, if anyone can take on any advice from this, is just remember the mission if you're going to be a community-based business.
Just a quick fire round before we finish. Actually, don't leave my phone. Favorite food?
Chicken biryani. I know that's controversial because people like lamb biryani, but I'm a chicken biryani guy. So sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. Don't let that ruin your view of amazing.
With or without potatoes?
Oh, I like a good potato, Throw it in there. Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Shawshank Redemption or Godfather, but not part 3 because they ruined it.
I've not even watched that. I've just watched Shawshank.
Well, at least you've watched Shawshank.
Favorite holiday destination?
You know what? I'm not well travelled enough. I'd say I'm going Mauritius this year. So inshallah, it's Mauritius for now. But I went Turkey, and he died out there. I love Turkey.
How?
Got food poisoning, ended up in the hospital, man.
Yeah, you mentioned.
So that's because Luqman didn't organise my holiday. Shout out Luqman. But yeah, I'd say Mauritius, hopefully.
Favorite book?
Ooh. I'll give you 2, right? One's a self-help book, the other's a fiction book. The self-help book, I would say The Richest Man in Babylon. Very short book. Anyone that wants to learn about managing money, that's a good book to read. Favorite fiction book, I would probably say Fracture, sci-fi.
Is there a movie after Fracture?
I think it's a slightly different one, the one on Netflix, but I think it's a slightly different one.
And favorite day?
It's got to be Monday, man.
Exactly.
That's it.
Love to see it. Where can people find you?
Ummazing.com, so Ummazing, Ummazing.com. Don't forget the name, and if you ever use the word amazing again, remember it's with a UMM. That's
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming on.
Brilliant. Jazakallah, bro. Thank you.